Hey, this is Zach Lugg the Great. I generally try to leave my personal life out of these talks. I don't think I'm really that interesting, though I hope my ideas are. But in this case, it's relevant to the discussion. I grew up in a Christian home, part of a small Protestant denomination. Now, I will not claim that I am a saint or any kind of exemplar. If you watched me for a week, you could point out a dozen, probably 100 or 1,000 ways I have failed my ideals. But I have striven to keep the faith of my fathers, to hold true to what I was taught. A few years ago, and I'm still somewhat confused and surprised by this, I became a Catholic. Although there was more to the story, an important part of this change was discovering that, up until the 1930s, there was untroubled agreement among all Christian denominations that contraception, artificially interfering with the sex act to prevent conception, was a grave sin, destructive to the human spirit. Up until then, I had always thought of this doctrine as merely a weird thing Catholics thought and didn't pay that much attention to it. But finding out that even after the Protestant schism, this belief was held in common, that shook me. And here's why. You see, although today it is mostly held as an injunction against crude language, that does not appear to be the real intent of "do not take the Lord's name in vain." It might be more accurate to paraphrase that as, "do not attach God's name to a cause which is not His." That is, do not say, "God says," when God never did. Do not invent your own rules and then stamp God's approval on them. Now, if contraception is not sinful, then the entire Christian church, including Protestants, was in gross violation of this command for 19 centuries. Am I really supposed to swallow that idea? The alternative is to believe that a significant part of the church has gone astray for the past 100 years. If you want to call yourself a Christian, one of these ideas is far more tenable than the other. But why? Even after I had become Catholic and accepted this idea, I still didn't have a very good understanding of why contraception was wrong. I accepted that wiser men than I had agreed on this for quite some time, but I couldn't reason it out or explain it myself. Recently, however, I think I've begun to understand this, and although he didn't explain it himself, Jordan Peterson helped me sort this out, and clean my room, bucko. You see, one of the things Peterson explained is that children and entire cultures act ideas out before we can understand or explain them. Children can play a game together before they can verbally explain the rules, even though they comply with them. Cultures act out an idea ritually before they conceptualize it abstractly. We embody ideas before we understand them. Now, anyone even remotely conservative or traditional will agree that our culture has gone insane in sexual matters. As if pretending a man can marry another man isn't bad enough. Now we're so confused we can't even seem to clearly define what a man and a woman is. The confusion and chaos surrounding sexuality are unbelievable. But why is this happening? Well, here's one answer. Maybe you'll like it, maybe not. Sex is ultimately about reproduction, about creating the next generation. Ask any biologist, and that's what they'll tell you. But when we engage in contraception, we are enacting the idea that sex has nothing to do with children. You cannot act an idea out many, many times and not at some level believe it. That is a surefire way to madness. And so, although most people will still say they agree that sex is connected to reproduction, if they engage in contracepted sex, they have enacted, embodied the idea that the two are different things. And once you disconnect sex from its purpose, well, what is it for? And what does it matter who you do it with? And what is even the difference between men and women at all? It's all just words at that point, right? Our sexuality, our nature as men and women, is at the core of our being. It is one of the most fundamental aspects of our identity. And by engaging in contraception, we act out a lie about that aspect of ourselves. And repeatedly acting out a lie is a surefire way to go mad. And our culture in this area has absolutely and undeniably gone mad. God be with you.